There are 6 habits that make the most credible, qualified people sound weak and lose the opportunities that should be theirs. After 30 years interviewing leaders, founders, executives on global TV and stages across the world, and training them, I know exactly what they are, and I guarantee you're doing at least 2 of them all the time. Most people walk into a high-stakes moment completely focused on what they're going to say, but there's something they bring into the room that can derail everything, and by the time they realize it, it's too late. Let's begin with habit number 1. When I worked in TV, we loved filming on location, somewhere that gave us a feel for the guest's industry or where they worked. And every single time the PR or marketing person would stand in a specific spot, the worst place they could possibly be. Now, the PR or marketing person was usually anxious because their job was on the line. And that anxiety travelled straight across the room and into the person being interviewed. I've seen the same thing happen in pitch meetings, panel discussions, boardrooms. Someone who wants you to do well, standing exactly where they can hurt you most. I know someone whose son was so nervous before his driving test that she was allowed to sit in the car with him, but she sat exactly where she couldn't hurt his chances. Habit number 1 is having the wrong person in your eye line, because the moment a familiar face is in your line of sight and something feels off, you stumble on a word, someone asks you something unexpected, your eyes dart to them automatically. You're looking for a signal. Did I mess up? Are they worried? And whatever their face does, your brain reads it and reacts. The fix is simple. Put that support person behind you where you can't see them. Okay, so you've controlled the room, you feel grounded and ready, and then you open your mouth and you say something that strips you of your credibility. On to habit number 2. It takes 1 word to destroy your authority, and you say it all the time. The reason you use it is completely understandable, because you were taught that good leaders sound considered, balanced, and you don't want to come across as arrogant. So you frame your point as a view rather than a verdict, and it sounds something like this. Well, you see, I think the issue is, let's call this meh energy. The thing is that the people that you want buy-in from, the board, the investor, the funder, they want certainty. They want I know energy. So if you know something, say it. And if you don't know, say that too. I don't know. But this is exactly how we can find out. That's far more powerful than saying, I think, I believe. Habit 2 is hedging language. If you are the authority in your field, don't use words like these. Okay, you're speaking with certainty, you sound like you know, but then something happens, and before your brain decides what to say, you're betrayed. On to habit number 3. I've sat across from thousands of leaders, executives, founders on live television, on stages, and I can tell you exactly when someone loses the room and their authority. It's not when they give a bad answer. It's in the moment before that, and it happens in a split second. But the room sees it and seals your fate. The people who don't have this habit, they don't just survive the moment. Their credibility grows because of it. In fact, the more challenging the situation, the more powerful they become. Habit 3 is the nanosecond reaction when something goes wrong. It could be a wince, a sharp intake of breath, eyes that dart sideways. That nanosecond of, I've been caught out, written all over their face. Now, these are normal human reactions, but you can control them. 2 things. First, think like a journalist. Write down every question you hope you will never be asked. Then build a clean, calm answer for each one, and never assume that nobody in that room knows really what's going on. You know, I used to call my guests competition before an interview to dig around and find out what wasn't in the news, and they were very happy to share all sorts of things. Second, slow down your reaction. When something unexpected happens, breathe. Keep your face neutral, then answer. These grounding moments of calm before you respond move you from somebody who will lose the room to someone who owns it. But even if you get this right, you will still lose the room in the first 30 seconds if you don't kill off habit number 4. Imagine you're listening to someone on stage and they're telling you all about the thing they make, the survey they've done, the product they're building, their track record, things that prove they deserve to be there. And you think, why should I care? Look, we all do this and it's not your fault. You were rewarded for it your whole life at school, university, early career. Proof that you know your stuff is how you got great grades, earned the right to have an opinion. But the board, the investor, the client, they want to know immediately whether you understand their world, their problem. They want you to be the shortcut to the solution they're looking for, the great insight. The guests who got invited back to my TV program were great at this. They opened up with the voice inside the head of the people watching. They spoke about what people were worried about, were wondering about. So habit number 4 is starting with what's important to you. I call this a metro. Me, I did, I have, I am. Don't do that. Swap your metro for a utro. It's all about what your stakeholder needs and wants. I get my clients to use a process I call the stakeholder spotlight. It tells you in about 2 minutes whether your opener is a metro or a utro. And if it is a metro, how to flip it to get the right people to lean in and want to hear more from you. Okay, so you've nailed your opening line, the right people are listening, and then the clock runs out. On to habit number 5. I watched a global CEO being interviewed live on a major international business network. It was a big interview, quarterly results, global supply chain, the state of the world economy. For the first 10 minutes, he was relaxed, completely in control, great rapport and banter with the interviewer. Then the journalist said they needed to wrap up. He had 1 minute left and he realised he hadn't covered the most important things he wanted to say. So he went from calm, charm and charisma to crazed man, cramming in the words, trying to get it all out. The problem is the interviewer started speaking over him repeatedly to wind it up. Everything he'd built in those 10 minutes gone in 60 seconds. Now this might have happened to you, being interviewed by the board, pitching, a panel discussion where the moderator is giving you the wind-up signal. Habit number 5 is speaking fast under pressure. It's not just your words that get faster, your gestures, your movements, your voice goes up. You move from authority to anxiety. So here's the fix. Slow down. Feel the ground under your feet. Become heavy. Say the one thing you want people to remember and stop. On to habit number 6, which feels like it will save you. It does the opposite. I've had to ban some of the most senior, credible people I've worked with from holding on to something. They didn't like it at the time. They were convinced they needed it, and they were terrified of looking like a fool without it. The irony is that reaching for it is exactly what makes them look like a fool, because the moment you go for it, bam, there goes your credibility and every bit of connection, the most important thing, with the person whose buy-in you need. Your eyes go down, your body follows, your brain switches from communicating to searching, and suddenly you're stumbling over information you know perfectly well when you're not under pressure. Habit number 6 is needing your notes. The fix is simple. Do you know your stuff? If you do, you don't need your notes. If you don't know your stuff, now that's the real problem. Go and find out your facts and figures. Look, the founders, executives, leaders who are chosen, remembered, trusted, they're not always the most qualified in the room. They're the ones who've removed every single one of these habits. But there's one more thing that costs you opportunities, and the entire world is telling you to do it: growing a personal brand. But after 30 years on global TV and stages, I can tell you it is one of the worst things a founder or executive can do. I'm making a video all about it. I'll link it here when it's done. If you subscribe, you'll know when it drops.